tax attorney, CPA, enrolled agent. I'm here to discuss with you IRS appeals of levies, the how, the when, and the why. Before we go into those three things, let's talk about what an IRS levy is. A levy gives the IRS the ability to take possession of something that you own, such as money in the bank, investments, property, assets, a car. IRS can even garnish your wages. All of these things can be a serious disruption in your life, which is a segue as to why you want to have a levy stop so you don't have to go through that ordeal. Outside of just the reason of not having the IRS take something that's yours, it may be that the tax debt, you don't know it. There's been a mistake. There's something there that you can challenge. It may be that the tax liability is over 10 years old since it's been assessed, and the IRS no longer have rights to collect on it. It may be that the tax debt is also as a result of your spouse and not yours, and you have an innocent spouse defense. It may be that you can present an offer in compromise. It also may be that this may cause tremendous hardship. Maybe you can't pay your rent, your mortgage, your car payment. These are things, all good reasons why you should appeal an IRS levy. So now we're going to talk about when and how. They're both interrelated because when you do it may determine how you do it. Now for starters, let's talk about how you got the notice. Did you get the notice from a revenue officer? If so, that's the individual to whom you're going to deal with. If you just received a notice in the mail without correspondence from a revenue officer, then you're going to look at the notice itself and call the number that's given on the notice. There will be instructions on where you can fax or mail an appeal request to. Now there are three ways you can appeal an IRS levy. One is through a collection due process hearing. The other is an equivalency hearing, and finally a collection appeals program. Now before you embark upon any of those three, it may be possible that you can resolve this simply by making a timely phone call to the individual on the notice or to the revenue officer you're dealing with. So let's talk about the first one, the collection due process hearing. Now this is ideally the way to go about it. So how to apply for a CDP hearing is simply by completing form 12153 and getting it in to the IRS. It has to be postmarked within 30 days from the date of the last intent to levy notification that was sent to you. It's important to get that done in that fast time. Now the advantages of getting a CDP hearing is one, it'll halt any IRS levy activities. Unless there's a danger for them to collect, it ordinarily will put a stop to it, which is a good thing. And two, if you disagree with the outcome of the hearing, you get to go to tax court to dispute it again. And that's really big. Whereas with an equivalency hearing and a collection appeals program, you don't. So it's very important that you act quickly once you've gotten that notice if you want to appeal. The other one is the equivalency hearing. And basically, if you miss the time frame to get within a collection due process hearing, then you're going to want to go for the equivalency hearing. You fill out the same form, the 12153. Now again, you don't get the ability to appeal, and the IRS does not have to stop collection. So they can enforce a garnishment or a levy during that process. Now the equivalency hearing, you'll have 1 year after the initial 30 days has expired to apply for an equivalency hearing. The collection appeals program is different from both the collection due process hearing and the equivalency hearing. You can actually apply for a collection appeals program before the IRS even initiates a levy, and you can do it after the levy has been initiated by the IRS and up to 2 years after that point. Now the collection appeals program does not give you the ability to challenge the tax liability where you could under a due process, so that's very important to note. Also, anything that gets determined in a collection appeals process, let's say you do it before they do a notice of intent, that cannot be adjudicated again under a collection due process hearing. You may be wondering, why would I use a collection appeals program if I can't challenge the tax? Well, it could be that the IRS made a mistake when they levied, the improper procedure, or you had an installment plan that they terminated, modified, adjusted in some way that caused, it changed how it went, and they'll put you in a situation where you could be levied. So you can have a cap appeal on that. How to proceed with the collection appeals program is determined by whether or not you're dealing with a revenue officer. If you're not dealing with a revenue officer, you'll then call the number on the notice that you received. You'll ask to speak to the manager to see if you can settle the dispute there. If the dispute is not settled, it'll automatically get put through to collection appeals. Now, if you're dealing with a revenue officer, you'll need to contact that revenue officer's manager or supervisor and request a hearing, a meeting. And if that meeting is not able to resolve the dispute, you'll then need to fill out Form 9243, which is a collection due process request. With any of these three types of requests, once made, an appeals officer will reach out to you to set up a meeting, and then you'll have that meeting and a determination will be made. And based on the type of appeal request you chose, will determine what your options are. Well, that wraps up this brief summary. Hopefully you've gotten some useful information out of it. But just remember, you don't have to go about this alone. Dealing with the IRS is very complex, and having a tax professional give you guidance is often the best way to go. Now, there are three types of tax professionals that can give expert guidance. That's a tax attorney, a CPA whose focus is primarily taxation, and an IRS enrolled agent. Although each of these designations is afforded the ability to represent you, they have specific designated skill sets. And I happen to be all three, a CPA and an attorney and an enrolled agent, so I've got you covered no matter what. So if you're dealing with an IRS levy issue, feel free to give me a call at 772-418-0949 or go online, www.harmonassociates.net, and complete the online inquiry. In addition, there's a lot more critical information contained within my website and within several blogs that I've written on this topic. Feel free to look at them. Thank you for watching.